Hi everyone and welcome to the short API C++ tutorial series in 4 sections about how to connect to an API using an HTTP request in Unreal Engine. First of all, let's take a look at what we're going to build here. If I press the play button here, you see a ticking clock. This is the current local time in Tokyo, and if I push any of these buttons, you will get the current local time in those cities. We do this by sending an HTTP request to an API, retrieving the response, and then we parse the result. We're taking out the information needed to get the current time and the location of our choice. We're also using a timer handle to make sure that the clock keeps ticking and displaying the correct time going forward, without doing a new request to the API until we change the city. To do this, we'll be using C++ in the UMG system, so pretty cool stuff. Before we move on, I would like to ask you a favor. You know what to do. Like and subscribe. It will help me out a lot, so thank you for your support. Alright, in this first section we will handle a widget. Make sure that we have it attached to the screen. In the second section, we will handle the HTTP request. We will also talk about the API we'll be using in this tutorial. In the third section, we'll be diving into making sure that we collect the correct data by working with the request parameters through the request URL. And then in the fourth section, we collected all the information. Now it's time to set it up and display it all on the screen. Here we'll dive into timer handles and work a little bit with blueprint callable functions. So there's a lot to do here, so let's get to it. Alright, welcome to this first section of the tutorial, the creation of the HUD widget. Before we start, we need to do some groundwork with the project. This is a brand new C++ project with no starter content called API tutorial. Starting with saving out the map, so I will begin with creating a little structure here with a _game folder, followed by a maps folder and a UI folder. I will now save the current level in the maps folder and call it main map. Next, we will go into the project settings, and under the maps and modes, I will change the editor startup map and the game default map to the main map I just saved. Let's also change the default game mode to the API tutorial game mode, as this is where we will store our logic in this project. Now we can close this and go into the editor preferences. Here we can change the asset editor open location to main window. What this change will do is whenever I double click on content, it will open in a main window instead of becoming a floating undocked window. And lastly, I will go to the live coding and turn live coding off, as I rather just do my own compiling, and live coding never gave me anything else but trouble. With all of this out of the world, let's get into the main part of the section, the HUD widget. The HUD will contain 2 parts. The time window and the time zone selection buttons. It's now time to create a new widget blueprint and call it HUD_widget. Double click on it and open it up. So to make this HUD, we start with a canvas panel. Add a text field to the canvas and set the anchors to center, and set the size X to 500 pixels and the Z to 150 pixels. Set position X to -250 and the Y position to -350. We set the justification to center and twirl down the font options. Change the font size to 36 and continue by twirling down the outline settings and set it to 4. Let's change the shadow alpha to 1 and the offset to 4 and 4. And that will be what we need for the time window. Next, for the buttons, we add a horizontal box to the canvas and anchor it to the bottom. And set its size to 1000 by 100. We set the position X and Y to -500. Let's add 1 button to the horizontal box. And set the padding right to 20 and size to fill. Now we add the text field and place it on top of the button. Add the outline of 2 and set the text size to 32. We change the text to Tokyo. Now we copy the button and paste it 2 times. I will change the text to London and to New York. We can also change the names of the actual buttons to correspond with the correct city. This will help us out further down the line. In the New York button that we have on the right, let's change the right padding to 0. Now we can compile and save the HUD and close it down. Before we move into the C++ part, we can open a level blueprint. Now this is a dirty way to add a HUD to the screen and not something I recommend other than when building it and testing. Let's drag off from the begin play node and add a create widget node. Change it to HUD widget. Drag off this and add a add to viewport node. Let's get the player controller. And get the set show mouse cursor. We set it to true. Now we're ready to compile and save. Alright, let's test this guy out. Pressing the play button shows the HUD on the screen, and we are now ready to move on to the C++ and HTTP code in section 2.